If you have not, the administrator's sign-in QR code is there. Please complete that, SurveyMonkey, so we have accurate attendance of everyone today. So thank you all for your time this Monday morning. We do need to approve the minutes from our last meeting in April. Hopefully, I know those have been sent out a couple of times. Hopefully you've had the chance to review them. Are there any changes that need to be made? Can we get a motion for approval?
I'll make a motion for approval for the minutes.
Thank you, Damian. And can we get a second?
This is David Hoffenberg. I'll second.
Great. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. All right. Those are approved. So we're going to do co-chair updates. And before we do that, just so you're aware, we had some changes. Don't know what the final outcome is going to be yet. But we are looking for another co-chair for our finance committee. Right after our last meeting, Katrina Kiefer left Augusta and is now at another institution in Alabama. And so we've been working on getting a replacement for that. So that team I know has not met, so there will not be an update today. I will ask, I think there was 4 people that had signed up originally for that. So if there is anybody that is interested in participating or helping with lead that committee, please let myself or Regina know around that. Yes.
Hey, sorry, I apologize. I was coming from one meeting to another. I know the group hasn't met, but I do have a little bit of an update.
Perfect.
That I'd like to give. Katrina and myself, our CFO and our head of revenue cycle met. We kind of got together to brainstorm what we could do here. What we wanted to do is create or develop a sample finance dashboard to share with the group and then get some feedback and input in terms of, is it doable? Would you add or take away any items on the dashboard? So our analytics team is working on, we've created the report to run to create the dashboard, and the analytics team is working on putting the dashboard together so it's visually appealing and actually provides the information we want in terms of levels of activation, reconciliation with registry, ICU accommodation charges, and so forth. So there's been a little bit of behind the scenes work that we were trying to get together before the first meeting got pulled together, and also before I knew that Katrina was leaving. So whoever ends up leading that group, I'll be happy to share that dashboard with them.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you, Regina. I'm sorry. Yeah, I saw you jump on at the last, right before I finished. So I appreciate that. And if there is anybody that is interested in helping participate, that's probably that is going to be one of the most active groups, just because we have a tremendous amount of work that needs to be done and needs the impact and feedback from this group as well. In addition, before we do the rest of the updates, I would like to ask, if you have not signed up for a work group, that if you would please let us know which one you would like to participate in. So there's 3, there's finance, there's diversion saturation, and then there's education. And so I've had a chance to meet with 2 of the 3 over the last 4 to 5 weeks. And so I know that there's definitely some work that's starting. I also understand and completely appreciate the amount of work that you have on top of your regular, and on top of this in your full-time job, because it's never stagnant and it's constantly moving. So again, thank you for that. If you would like to participate in any others you haven't signed up for, please let us know. Oh, thank you, Sheila. I appreciate it. Francis and Amy, do you all want to give an update as to where we are with saturation diversion? Make sure they're on.
Hey guys, it's Francis. Not much of an update from us other than scheduling the group to meet soon.
Okay. Great, thank you. I know as we move into the fall season, that's probably going to be something that we're going to have to clearly understand. One of the things we learned through COVID, the fourth or fifth or whatever wave we happen to be starting right now, sixth, is that it's cyclical. It's not like flu. And so because of that and the higher volumes within the hospitals, not as bad definitely right now. But as we encroach flu season and increasing diversion, we want to make sure that our trauma patients have the ability to be seen. In multiple cases, as you've heard, there were significant delays. So really that's going to be a big part of that group and understanding how we can communicate effectively across the state. So thank you. Damien, any areas of report out for you all?
Yeah, we haven't been able to find a time to meet yet. I did attempt again today to set up a meeting for the first week of August, but if we're not able to do that, I went ahead and sent out just some poll questions that I'll summarize when we meet next time. We're doing some work on education in terms of developing the Rural March Pause course, and although it feels like it's moving slower than it should, we have been taking some steps forward. And actually, if any of you will be at the Center for Rural Health GHA meeting, I'll be giving a talk on that program. And I hope we can have our first course offered here within maybe in the fall.
That's great. Thank you. Yes, I know scheduling has been a trial on all the emails I've been on. I've seen. I would ask that if you all could please, we're trying to schedule these in advance. We're not trying to turn it around like the next week. I would ask that you please make this a priority, particularly if you're work group members. The co-chairs are really trying to get these up and started, and we really need your support for that. So I would ask that you do what you can to make this a priority. I know summer is busy, but we are having the co-chair group, although our next meeting is not till October, we are meeting in August to kind of do some strategy planning about what the next year needs to look like. So thank you all for your report out. As we talk, yes.
Let me just add to that. I mean, really, even if you're not in the education work group, if you just have some ideas or some educational needs, if you'll just shoot those to me in an email, that would be great for anybody on the group.
Thank you. That's absolutely needed. You know, we have the opportunity here to do something a little bit different that a lot of states don't have. We're forward setting, as you all heard in February, March at Barnsley. There's a lot of things that the state of Georgia is doing that a number of states are, but definitely not a majority. We are definitely in the minority of those that are leading the way from a statewide effort. We really have a huge impact. And the colleagues I've spoken to in many other places that don't have an administrators group that has the ability to have buy-in, say so, feedback, whatever that is, and how things are functioning. So it's really important, and your voice is important in all of this. So with that, I have reached out actually just this morning to Jessie, who is the chair of our GTCE committee, and I am asking her what they find value in from being the frontline leaders in the institution related to trauma. What is it that they feel like we need to know? Unless you've been engulfed in this for as long as some of us have been, and a lot of this is intuitive, you may not know. And so we want to make sure that you're prepared both from what we see as a commission standpoint, as well as what your frontline leaders do that are leading trauma on a day-to-day basis, whether it's data, finance, staffing. The new gray book just came out recently, and there were definitely some changes around that. So though I've asked that question about how's the best to glean that information from them. So more to come. Hopefully I'll have that information. Definitely we'll have that information before our next meeting really in October. I would also like to ask one other action item I had, and then I'm going to ask Liz if she has any updates. Is there any feedback from Barnsley? There was a lot of discussion around trauma in general, trauma finance. You saw some great GQuIP presentations. So would ask, is there anything from this group that you all have questions about or would like further knowledge or any work that's been done in your organization around those topics that you're aware of since then? And I'll leave it open for the group to respond. All right. Liz, do you have any updates from Trauma Commission that you'd like to share with the group?
Thanks, Michelle. Good morning, everybody. Can you guys hear me okay? Our HVAC came on and sometimes there's like a lot of background noise.
I can hear you okay.
Thank you, guys. Gabby's going to share our what ended up being our final FY 2022 distribution to your centers. And I want to share that because you may or may not know how much extra money you got. And just to, ensure that your funding isn't going into the black hole and you're sort of unaware of what's coming your way. There was a pretty good additional amended amount that went to the trauma centers. You can see if you just look, everything that's in that yellow column, that's your standard FY22 base contract. And then just about, I guess, a month ago or so, we sent out your amended contract. So if you look down column I there, that's the additional readiness funds that everybody got. Okay, so level 4's got just under 14,000. Level 2's got just under 70,000. Or excuse me, level 3's got just under 70,000. Level 2's got 283,000, and then level 1's 471,000. So I bring that to your attention because that's a good chunk of change for some of you. So a lot of folks reached out about wanting to do extra educational things. I think, we were very lucky with this amended budget. The super speeder was pretty robust for the year. So we got additional money that got pushed out. And then there were additional funds for the burn centers as well. On the bottom, not everybody is in contract with the commission. And Regina Medeiros is our budget committee chair, and she's the secretary treasurer for the commission who sits on this committee, and she and the budget committee are working on, potentially folding in the other trauma centers into the annual contracting amount. So much more news to come on that as the budget committee gets rolling for FY24. And then one other thing to point out is that column J, and that is the pay for performance piece. And we're going to loop this group in a little bit earlier for FY24. We didn't change the performance-based pay criteria has been the same with a very minor tweaks here and there, but not anything that would result in centers losing money. But you can see that there's still some centers that are losing money on the performance-based pay criteria. So we're going to have kind of a summary of what those criteria were that folks are losing money on, because we kind of need to understand this. Our goal is to sort of get the money to everybody. With that in mind, though, the legislators do love this program where we ensure that there's some level of accountability for funds. So that is the results of the pay for performance right there. So in that far column, I think it's column O, is the total fiscal year funding for your for your trauma center. And as you can see, it was a really good year for trauma funds. And one of the things that Regina and the budget committee are trying to do is we want to achieve sort of a steady state with this funding. So we know there's a lot of other things that need to be funded. The trauma centers are the largest chunk of the budget, obviously 16 with the additional centers of the $21 million budget. So, so please, we can send this out to the group, Michelle. And this is where we love your expertise. And Regina, I'm not sure if you have any other comments or any other asks. I hope that once the finance group gets going, we can sort of look at this. And I think this is the part about the dashboard and sort of knowing what is happening with these funds and, using information in the trauma centers better to inform the activation fee structure and such. All those things would be really helpful. Any comments, Regina?
Yeah, thanks, Liz. one of the things that we talked about in our small group was to be able to demonstrate to the legislators the impact that the dollars have on the programs, and not to go into line item detail, but definitely from the administrators, some ideas to be able to show for the funds received, how are those funds utilized to enhance or improve or support your existing programs? We asked that question on our final report, the fourth quarter report. And it is something that costs a lot of money. I think a lot of centers just put call pay, but I can't help but think there are other things that we can demonstrate that support programs with some of these funds too. It'd be really nice to be able to capture that.
I think that's really important too, Regina, as we think about readiness. Yes, I know call pay is a tremendous amount of dollars, but even registry support and the new numbers that came out in the gray book, and ensuring that each of the institutions have that level of support that they need, that's what this money is for. And I know that sometimes it just goes straight to that bottom line. And so this is something that would be really good for everyone to understand exactly where this is going to, and what do you have the ability to impact if there's an area of need within your organization. You might be fully staffed and everything's perfect, and so there isn't a need. But as you think about training and new registrars or trauma nurse registrars coming in, there's some value add in being able to have those dollars allocated for that. And I know sometimes it just gets pushed into that bottom line number. So thank you. Liz, any other updates? Or
Michelle,
Regina?
I did want to make one last comment about that. You made me think about that. And you're, the cost of readiness for us is fairly high because of the subspecialty coverage. But, one thing I think we don't think of, I don't know, for example, what Damien's readiness costs are. I know there's the base cost that everybody has, and what does that look like? But I think one thing we don't think about is utilizing some of those funds to send registrars to TQIP, and to, I think Liz did that, or Grady was able to use their funds. Some creative ways if we start sharing that people might not think about, because that builds education, it builds a team, you network at the national level for other areas and improves the quality overall. So I think there's a lot for us to learn if we start sharing sort of what creative ideas we can utilize the dollars for.
That's great. I absolutely agree, Regina. I think there's a wealth of knowledge in this group and lots of diversity of thought that could really help support where we are headed as a trauma system. So Regina, Liz, anybody else have any updates that they want to share? I'm looking, it's kind of hard to see who's on and who's not on. Or any other questions? Gina, do you have any updates for the group?
Good morning. I do not. I am multitasking today. I'm finishing up at the ACS Quality and Safety Conference. So I think I'm very excited about the summer meeting. I think there'll be some great things coming out of the centers, and I hope we learn a lot. The Arborimetrics project did get contracts finalized. So we are actually having kickoff meetings with Arborimetrics and ESO on Friday. So that is really exciting. So that's all I have.
Great. Gina, I actually had, not for today, because I wasn't sure where things were. I hadn't requested an update. But maybe in the October meeting, could you give an update as to where we are with Arborimetrics and kind of where we stand, and just so the leaders are aware of that and that tremendous impact we know it's going to be for Georgia.
Absolutely, I'll be glad to, and hopefully, after our kickoff meeting, I'll have a little more information about a solid timeline of what that looks like. So be glad to.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right. Does anybody else have anything? Because I'm about to give you at least 30, 40 minutes back in your day. A little bit short. Hopefully next time we'll have some more updates. So one, just some reminders, please. If you've been asked to schedule some time, please make it a priority. It is that important. And we really need that feedback before we have our August meeting, so we can kind of plan out the trajectory of the rest of the year. And two, either you have the administrators from all the centers. Hopefully you have their contact list. That's been sent out. We can resend it if we need to. But that's a great contact just to have networking, even if it's a question outside of trauma. I know there's been some times I've reached out to other peers, which is some questions about other things that are happening. So use this group It's obviously for trauma, but if there are other issues that come up, it's just a great network to have folks from across the state that may have a different view, different idea, different thoughts on how they handle things. So it is a great resource to have. All right, is there, yes.
Just two more updates from the commission. One is, I know we're trying to make the winter meeting the in-person meeting for this group. It looks like, unfortunately, we will not be going back to Barnsley. It was quite an expensive endeavor, and they have raised their rates considerably. So I don't think that we're going to be able to do that. We are looking at trying to use Chateau Lalanne. We have a credit from there that was one of the very first cancellations due to COVID. So we'd like to at least take advantage of that credit if we can. So we're in contract negotiations with them. Things are looking really good. So we'll let this group know as soon as possible. We're still trying to stick to those same dates though, because I know that date is kind of out there. And due to all of the conflicting meeting dates, the professional society meetings, et cetera, we're trying to sort of stick with that date because it works best for the commission as well. And then I'm not sure if I told this group or not, but the level 3, level 4 readiness cost survey results that we presented at Barnsley, that got accepted for a American Association of Trauma main podium presentation. We're working on the manuscript for that. So that's really exciting. There were, I think Regina sent to me, there were something like 700 and some submissions and only 76 get accepted, or 60 or something like that. So it's a lot of submissions and not very many acceptances. So it just goes to show, because that work was certainly not academic, not something you would imagine would be at a meeting like that, but there's such a hunger to know what is going on at the level 3 and level 4 center level. I think this is really going to be great. And we look forward to repeating this and really kind of drilling down. You mentioned the gray book a couple times. The gray book omitted level 4 criteria, and they're going back to the drawing board. I've had meetings with Avery Nathans and Nilda Garcia. Nilda Garcia is the chair for the ACS VRC, and they understand this was a major oversight, and they are working on the revisions to that now. So if you're level 4 center, the criteria are coming back. There's a rural committee that's been established of the COT, and it's not academicians. It's actually people who are living and working in the rural areas. So that'll be really good to see.
Oh, that's great. I know there's been lots of conversation about the level 4 criteria not being in the book. That's huge. That's great. I think the paper and the work done around that is just another example of where Georgia is leading the way. So again, this group really has that ability to have quite an impact in that, and just think there's a lot of opportunity for us. So just a little plug there.
Yeah, we've been invited by TCAA to do they're trying to do a pilot study replicating the level 1 and 2 costs. So any of you who are involved in the level 1 and level 2 costs, if you are interested in being a part of this, please send myself or Gabby a quick note, and we'll be happy to include you. It's nice for folks to have the people who actually did the work, but I think this whole effort to quantify costs, and not only do we have the cost data for all 1s through 4s now, but we have we have funding, so we can kind of use that as a guide for our budget to make sure that proportionally we're getting the right funding out there. So it's really exciting.
Absolutely. Oh, that's great. Liz, I realized, first of all, I just saw your text, but do we want to give any updates on what we're doing with surveys and like
oh yeah,
January visit? And yeah, do we want to just give a brief update or overview?
Thank you so much for that. Yes, so we are, if you guys may remember that we've talked about having the ACS consultative visit with a rural focus. So ACS does trauma center visits. They also do trauma system visits. So they come into your state. Georgia had one of those in 2008. We want to have another one, but one of the things that we work with ACS on is this idea of doing a focused visit. And for us, it would be focused on rural Georgia. Because a lot of times when they come into your state, they just can't help but get, sucked into those urban areas, and the rural areas get very little attention. So we thought, besides the Pennsylvania Trauma System Foundation Level 4 consultative visit initiative that we have going on for all Level 4s, since ACS doesn't have a process for 4s, and now they took the criteria away, we thought it would be really good, and ACS loved that idea. So they are coming in January. They say the week of the 9th. I can't imagine that they'll be here all week. We're trying to set up target areas, one sort of in the northern tier in the rural area up north, maybe around Gainesville or somewhere in that vicinity, and then 2 stakeholder meetings down towards either Cordele and maybe over towards Savannah. So the stakeholder meetings are for those of you in the rural areas, or if you are an urban center that supports a large rural transfer population, it'd be great for you to be there at those stakeholder meetings. And we have calls set up with ACS to kind of work through logistics on this. And they really want to hear from the boots on the ground people doing it. So for those of you who are on this call and you're in those 3 and 4 centers, we really need you to be part of that, because they do want to hear from you. They don't want to hear from me or Michelle or Regina about what our thoughts are and what the system issues are. And we really need it as well, because we can turn those around into action items and figure out where, if anything, that we can support moving forward. So that's the ACS consultative rural focused visit. The Level 4 PTSF console visits are happening the week of October 10th. And all of the Level 4s will have their visits, with the exception of just a couple, I think, who were newly designated right after we went through this process, because we have been talking about this since, I think, end of 2020 or early 2021. So so if you missed out this time around and you're Level 4, don't worry, we will figure out some way to have them potentially come back. And we do look forward, we do have our commission meeting coming up at St. Simon's in August. But then our November meeting, November 17th, which happens to occur the 3rd Thursday of November, is always World Health Day. So that meeting coincides with World Health Day. And the Pennsylvania Trauma System Foundation, the lead surveyor, and one of the board members and one of their surveyors will come to that meeting and give an aggregate overview of what they see of the 6 centers that they're going to look at. They're going to give a summary of what the high-level strengths, opportunities, and what some of their recommendations would be. So if that meeting is going to be at Macon Marriott City Center. We just moved it there because the meeting is going to be a little bit longer. So we welcome you to come to that, and we'll have a link on our website to sign up for it, or we're happy to have you listen in via Zoom, because I think there will be some great information. And with that, I'll stop. Michelle, happy to take any questions.
That's a great overview, and really important for all of us to be aware from a statewide system standpoint. Does anybody have any questions or thoughts? All right, the August meeting, we're going to have, this is obviously in place of, we decided to do July versus making August mandatory, but if you want to come, I know that hotels have been a little tight, but if you'd like to join and you're not already scheduled, please do so, and let me know if you are going to be there so we can make sure we get some time to chat. But greatly appreciate everyone's time on an early Monday morning. And I think there's a couple of items that will be there, or excuse me, there's a couple items in the chat. One, the link for sign in. Thank you, Gabby. The dates for the winter meeting, February 27th through March 1st. And then Very good. Liz wants to know if we want to do the finance course part 2 at the winter meeting. I think that would be a great idea, but I think you all need to provide feedback as well on that.
And we might be able to send out a Survey Monkey link, Michelle, to find out what, like we did before, what topics folks want in this part 2. The feedback was so overwhelmingly positive. I'd like to, you know, it would be good to keep going on that theme.
Absolutely, yes. And whatever feedback I also receive from the frontline trauma team members, managers and directors, I think we can add into that as well. So, all right, everybody, 28 minutes back in your day. Thank you all so much. Hope you have a great rest of the day and summer until we meet again.
Thank you.
Thank you all.